The election just 2 days away now. We asked the experts to call the state's hottest races and predict who will be in the Oval Office next year.
Also, Swiss bank UBS is cutting jobs and reorganizing just a year after getting tens of millions in grants from the state of Connecticut to keep jobs here. How many could we lose, and does it mean the incentive plan didn't work? Welcome to The Real Story. I'm Lori Perez.
And I'm Al Terzi. After months and, in some cases, years of campaigning, the moment has come for candidates to see whether their hard work has paid off, for voters to make the right choice. The most recent polls put that presidential race in a dead heat, or one slightly ahead of the other, depending on which poll you're looking at.
That's right. That's right. And here to talk about what worked and what didn't and who will come out on top is Chris Niedermeier. She's a national senior political analyst, an attorney, and a former state lawmaker. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Lori.
You know, almost as soon as Sandy started, people began to talk about whether or not Sandy and climate change could become an issue in the presidential race. A lot of people said it was too late to be a talking point, but now it seems to have inserted itself into it, particularly with New York City Mayor Bloomberg now endorsing President Obama. Chris Christie also being pretty effusive in his praise of the president. What role do you see it having in these next few days?
Well, it's a very good point, because Mayor Bloomberg's support, being a well-respected, independent, major mayor in this country, his support will be significant. Romney in all the polls has shown that he has an edge over Obama in the independent vote. So I think Bloomberg's support of Obama can only help in the final days. And I think Chris Christie, it's no secret that there's never been great love between Chris Christie and Romney. His comments before the Republican convention, his speech at the Republican convention, where he seemed to talk more about himself than about Romney, and certainly his actions in being so effusive, which is unusual this close to an election, being so effusive in inviting the president in to do events with him around the storm site certainly is a plus.
As we talk about the storm, you know, we've had some issues in Connecticut, and other places have too, that have been hit by the storm, and polling places are without power. You know, this is very serious, and plus the candidates have not been able to campaign because of the storm.
Well, it's a great point, because people are concerned about turnout, and actually that's a negative for Obama, because in many of the states that are close, and particularly New England states, many of which are expected to go Democratic in New England, if the turnout isn't there for him, that could affect him, even though he's ahead. So I think that's of concern. In some of the early voting states, that's a concern as well. But Florida hasn't been impacted, that should be for Obama. Virginia hasn't been that impacted, and that is leaning toward Romney at this point. So people are concerned about that, and also it keeps Romney, both candidates, but I think Romney a little more than Obama, because he's the president. He can sort of be out there dealing with the storm, keeps him off the TV, and people don't have TV service. Many people don't have TV and internet, so all these millions that have been spent on advertising for those undecided, narrow voters still left, you wonder if they'll have time to see him this week.
And yet there's been no talk at all, virtually no talk of delaying the election, which would take an act of Congress.
Yeah, I understand there's been some talk among secretaries of state, but I think at this point it's awfully late. And because there's been a small part of the country affected, a significant part, but a small part, I think that would be unlikely. Although I suspect whoever loses the election in the coming days next week is going to pin it on and get out the vote, and their failure to get their vote out because of the weather.
Well, from what I've been seeing, the polls talk about people's attitudes being that Romney would be better to handle the economy, and even to break the gridlock in Congress. And then there's talk about President Obama being better on social issues and that sort of thing. So, but the economy and jobs is number one. So I know in your blog, Straight Scoop Politics, you've predicted, you've done an electoral analysis, and you've come up with a win for Obama by a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very small margin, although it's anybody's guess. Even some of the top pollsters in the country don't know. But I'm predicting Obama will get about 277 electoral votes to 261 for Romney. There's about 8 battleground states still left, and I'm predicting that they'll split them 4 and 4, but the numbers are higher in states like Ohio, which I predict Obama will take.
And Romney will get Florida?
I think Romney's going to get Florida. I think the Republicans know how to pull out the vote, particularly in the Panhandle area. I think the Jewish vote is more lukewarm this time for Obama. And And I think the Hispanic vote is high, but yeah.
That's interesting to me that Romney would take Florida, because you think of all the seniors and worried about Medicare and Social Security and all of that, they might tend to gravitate toward the president.
You know, that's an excellent point, Al. And when Paul Ryan was selected as Romney's running mate, everybody said that his positions on Medicare, turning that into a voucher, and maybe privatizing Social Security would turn off the senior citizens. But a lot of the polls don't show that as happening. And just one other quick point that you raised about the economy. It is about the economy, stupid. And what I've said is I think this election is about the two Ps, the performance being leadership and policies. And I think when we started out, each of the candidates had an Achilles heel. Obama needed to convey to people and convince them that he could lead on the economy the next 4 years and exercise more leadership. And when Romney got into the race and as the nominee, and particularly after he picked Paul Ryan, there was a concern that his policies were going to be too conservative. So he spent, and I think did a better job during the debates, as cloaking himself in moderation and trying to give people who were upset with the economy and didn't want to vote for Obama for another 4 years, gave them a little more comfort in voting for him because his positions were more moderate. And that's why Obama has come out now with this Romnesia, telling people, you know, he's changed so many times, can you really count on what he stands for? Vote for me because I better represent the middle class. My policies are fairer, and I think in large part they are.
Can we, let's switch to the U.S. Senate race because we only have a few minutes left. And, you know, all the polls show, and many people say, that Linda McMahon has made great strides with women. But with such a focus on women's issues and work issues and health on the national level, is that going to cancel out any progress that she made, you think? Well,
she has made some progress. You're right, Lori. She's cloaked herself now more in the grandmotherly image and trying to appeal to women's voters. But her positions on some issues like the Blunt Amendment, which deals with health care for women in all employer situations, including mammograms. It makes it difficult, but I also say in one of my blogs, you know, I ran for Congress in this state, and I had a difficult time, even many years ago, getting the women's vote. And what the polling shows, and it shows
even
to this day.
Even with all your money.
Even with all my money, yeah. If only I had the $47 million that she's put into the race this year. But women, particularly non-career women, sometimes don't vote for career women running for office. And that's why I think, in part, we don't have as many women in the House and the Senate in Washington as we should. I think Connecticut still hasn't elected a woman, and someday they should. Maybe Linda McMahon's not the right one this year, but I hope at some point we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know, two of the things that came up in the course of this negative ad campaign, that they were both throwing arrows back and forth. $716 billion cut from Medicare, which is what Linda McMahon claimed. And then, on the other hand, Murphy is saying that she wants to do away with Social Security. Yeah, sunset means do away.
Yeah, you know, both sides have thrown mud at the other side that hasn't been true. If you listen to what Linda McMahon said on Social Security, she misused the term, which in many ways, if she was more experienced and maybe more ready to serve in the Senate, she wouldn't have. But she really meant that we need to reassess programs like Social Security periodically. And I think the ad that Murphy has thrown at her has been unfair because it's really jeopardized a lot of senior citizens, as a result of which her support in the most recent Quinnipiac poll shows her support among 55 and older citizens in the state declining. On the other hand, she's thrown a number of things at him. The $716 billion cut from Obamacare, from Medicare, really doesn't cut support for Medicare recipients. It was something recommended by many bipartisan organizations as an efficiency measure to not send as much money to vendors. And it's actually in Paul Ryan's Republican House budget. So for her to say, to criticize him and then have it in the Republican budget is inconsistent. I think they both have ran a very nasty, bitter campaign, and hopefully people will still go out and vote.
I'm not going to vote for anybody, just for that.
We're actually out of time, but just call that race.
I think it's going to be Murphy, and I think for two reasons. One is he's leading now among women by 14%, and he's going to have some coattails from Obama, who's still in double-digit wins in Connecticut.
Of course, Linda McMahon wants the coattails, too. She's asking people who vote for Obama.
That's right. That's right. She wants both sides.
So, well, anyway.
Right.
All right. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you. Great to be here.